Hi, welcome to Task 3, Part 1 of my music industry assessment. Social media. In this, I will be describing what social media is doing to the music industry right now and what I think might happen in the future. The pros and cons, if you will. So, there are pros and cons with social media in the music industry because of a few things. One of those things, I'd say, is YouTube. Now, don't get me wrong, YouTube is great. You can find whatever you want on YouTube. But some YouTubers start making music when they really have no talent or skill and it's really just a quick cash grab. And that's what I have a problem with. People who already have a fan base are deciding the next logical step is a quick cash grab, do some music. Like, a good example of this is Jake Paul, Team 10. They have done a few songs that are just not good. There's a song, and I don't know what it's called, but it's about how he hated his teachers, and it's a really terrible video. And him and his team of YouTubers make music, and none of it is good, but it still does incredibly well because they already had the fan base to begin with. And it's putting really, really terrible music out there for people to listen to. And it's making a lot of people who have no talent nor skill think that they can become musicians at the drop of a hat. But there are some musicians who start out on YouTube. Two musicians in particular. One, Justin Bieber. He started on YouTube. And in my personal opinion, I do not care for him. But he did get quite popular. Even if one of his songs is, I think, the most disliked video on YouTube. So that's fun. But another YouTuber who started making music on YouTube and then grew in popularity was Bo Burnham. And he's a comedian, but he did his comedy through music. And he's incredible. He's a brilliant role model, and he is really good artist. And that's what he wanted to do. YouTube was just his starting point. So the pros of YouTube, it can be a good starting point for new artists to gain a fan base. But it can also be people who do vlogs and people who don't really know what they're doing, trying to become artists because it's just the next logical step for a quick cash grab, and they don't care about what they're singing. They're just singing about random stuff like the latest trends. I think there was a few songs about slime when that was a trend, and it personally offended me as a musician that that was what music had come to. And I don't think it's getting any better. Because it's hard, it's getting harder and harder to be recognised on YouTube because there's so many people trying to be YouTubers, that YouTube is getting less and less a starting point and more a quick cash grab for terrible people. There has been a lot of scandals from a lot of people who have said, oh, I'm a big YouTuber, so I'm going to start doing music because it's the next logical step, even though they have no skill, they have no talent, they have nothing other than a loyal fan base who will support anything they do. But some don't. And it just... I don't think it's gonna get any better anytime soon. I think people are still going to be doing this. YouTubers are still going to be making songs. There is a brilliant YouTuber called Danny Gonzalez who loves making music, and he makes comedy songs. But really well produced and thought out comedy songs. He doesn't just pay for some random looped track that he then raps over with a bunch of nonsensical lyrics about how he has a lot of money or gets a lot of girls or whatever, or has a nice car. He sings and he puts thought and effort into it, which a lot of YouTubers fail to do. So violently fail to do it. And it's sad. It's so sad. Because music is sort of a voice for the voiceless. It's a way for people to express themselves. And it is not expressing yourself to talk about how you bought a car or how you have controversy on the internet and you're famous. It's a way to be comedic if you're a comedian. It's a way to get your feelings out. It's a way to build a community, and these people don't do that. These people don't do that because they already have that community that watch them for their videos, terrible or not, in my opinion. They don't need to be making music. They don't really think that making music is what they want to be doing with their life. They're just doing it because they know their fans will watch it and they will get money from it. It's a quick cash grab and they don't care about anything other than money. And it's terrible. And that brings me on to role models. Like I said before, a lot of people on social media are not great people. And a lot of them have a very young fan base. There are a few people on social media, like, I'm going to use Jake Paul as an example again. He has done a lot of terrible things. And he just does a half-assed apology and then everything's fine again. And people are looking up to him. People are listening to his music and looking up to him, being like, I want to be like that someday. It's breeding a new kind of terrible people. The amount of musicians on social media that have been called out for terrible behaviour, and little kids still say, I want to be like them when I grow up. I want to do everything they do. I'm a savage. Ugh. They're breeding terrible people. Social media is breeding a new wave of bad people. Some, not so much. There are some good role models, but they're not as popular as the bad role models, which is what worries me. Because the bad role models have a much larger fan base, which means that as time goes on, this is going to keep happening because people know that it gets views, it gets attention, it gets likes, it gets everything. Female artists are like showing how beautiful they are, how attractive they are, and that's how they're getting their fans. Not their skill, not their talent, how beautiful they are. They're using their looks and their terrible behaviour to get people to listen to them. And it's working because people love a good controversy. And it's breeding a new generation of terrible people who will become, some of them will become artists, and they'll be terrible role models. The cycle just continues on and on and on. There's a musician called 21 Savage who has literally killed people. And people look up to him and say, oh, I want to be exactly like him because he makes good music. And he's cool. It's idolizing someone who has killed people. It's not a good example to be setting for your younger fans. It's not a good example to be setting for anyone. Even adults can still be influenced by the things they watch. And it makes no sense that these people do not have a moral backbone. They do not have good morals. They do not have the will to stop themselves being terrible people. And instead, go on social media, go in the public eye, and tell everyone they're brilliant for all of the terrible stuff they've done. Like, I'm a terrible person, buy my new album. And people will. If that's the example that's being set for the next generation, I fear for humanity. Of course, there are some good role models, but not a lot. None I can name off the top of my head. There are a few bad ones that I can name off the top of my head, but not any good ones. None that say follow your dreams. None that say be a good person and be nice to people. I can name none. I can name Bo Burnham. And that is it, and he is barely on social media anymore. I can name Danny Gonzalez, and he is mostly a YouTuber, not a musician. I can name Set It Off, who are not a very well-known band. I can name a few bands. Not many, and they're not very popular. But I can name a ton of terrible musician role models who are just the epitome of everything I'm saying, and are breeding terrible people who are going to destroy the world. Because their music, it isn't expressive, it's violent. And I know that social media can be a good thing. which is why I am so disappointed with the fact that nobody can name the good things. And I hope that changes, but I do not have a lot of faith in it. Thank you for listening. This has been Social Media, Present, and hopefully not Future.